Right boys, welcome to the 20th video on my channel. We're on a bit of a non-league journey at the moment, and today we're going to be going over the top 10 teams in non-league whose stadiums are simply just too big for them. Who remembers when non-league Darlington invested into a 25,000 capacity stadium, which essentially caused their demise? It's now owned by local rugby club Darlington Moden Park RFC, and this is what Darlington FC Stadium currently looks like now. Yeah. At number 10, we've got Hereford FC. Hereford's Edgar Street boasts a capacity of 7,100, which is a pretty big stadium for the National League South, and maybe too big for Hereford FC fans, as on average they've only managed to fill 35% of it this season, with an average attendance of 2,533. But in the grand scheme of things, this video is going to get a whole lot worse in terms of the ratio between average attendance and stadium capacity, so stay tuned. At number 9, we've got Aldershot. The EBB Stadium has a capacity of 7,100. Despite its age, much of the stadium remains in its classic form, given an old school football ground vibe. But is it too big for the fan base? Almost certainly. But that's based off recent turnout. The ground is very old, and attendances haven't always been the same. On the 28th of January 1970, Aldershot hosted Carlisle in the FA Cup, and the attendance was 19,138, back when stadiums could obviously fit a lot more people. But in the last 10-15 years, in sync with stagnation as a non-league club, their average attendances have been less than 3,000, which is about 31% of their stadium filled. At number 8, we've got Altrincham's J. Davidson Stadium, with a capacity of 6,085. One of the smaller stadiums on this list, but still a decent sized stadium for non-league. But it says a lot about the fan base though, when they've had multiple seasons in the EFL, albeit not too recently, and their average home attendance this season has been 1,842, and their average attendances over the past 10 years been less than 2,000. Going off this season though, they've only managed to fill 30.3% of their stadium on average. The fans are known though for creating a decent atmosphere, considering there's not many of them, so you've got to give them that. At number 7, we've got Dover Athletic, who've only managed to fill 18.1% of their stadium this season. Dover play the Crabble Athletic Ground. The word Crabble isn't actually a word, but in this case I'm going to use it to describe a pretty empty stadium. Ha! You forgot to laugh, mate. Dover Athletic Stadium has a capacity of 6,500, and their average home attendance this season has been 1,174. Pretty poor. Right, it's getting silly now. Of course, a 6,500 capacity stadium isn't a big stadium, but it kind of is when you factor in the size of the club and Dover's geographical location. Dover is, of course, a relatively small town in Kent, located on the coast of the southeast of England, and there are a lot of other football clubs nearby. Charlton, Millwall, Gillingham. The Crabble is too big for them. It's too big. At number 6, we've got Merthyr Town. Apologies for the pronunciation. A team in the 6th tier of English football with a stadium capacity of 10,000. It's comical. I won't try and pronounce the name again, but it's safe to say the club has a long and storied history in the Welsh and English Football League. They were originally part of the English Football League for a period during the early to mid 20th century. The club was founded in 1909, and they played in the Football League 3rd Division South from 1920 until 1934. Through their time in the Football League, they were able to attract a significant number of fans to warrant a larger stadium. Penny Darren Park, also known as the new Penny Darren Park, was built in 1909 to meet the needs of a club playing in the Football League. Now, however, the club averages 1,527 fans per game, which is only 15.3% of their stadium full. At number 5, we've got Lynn Town. The Linnets play at the Walks, a stadium that, for a club in the National League North, which is the 6th tier of English football, is comparatively large. The stadium has a capacity of 8,300, which is notably high for a club of this tier. In fact, their stadium would be a decent size for an EFL League 2 team, and bigger than many stadiums in League 1. And considering Lynn's club size means they shouldn't really be any higher than National League North anyway, their stadium is obviously far too big. Lynn is a relatively small town with a population of around 45,000, and they've got a bigger stadium than the likes of Northampton Town, who are in League 1, which is also a town with a population of over 200,000. Taking all things into account though, Lynn Town's average home attendance in the past 10 years has been less than 2,000, and their attendance this season has been 1,252 on average, making their stadium 15.3% full on average. At number 4, we've got AFC Fylde's Mill Farm Stadium with a capacity of 6,000. The smallest stadium on this list, but by far the smallest attendance on this list. You've got to have a pretty small fan base to only be able to fill 15.1% of a 6,000 capacity stadium, regardless of what league you're in. And the fact you've got a stadium as big as 6,000 in a low league probably means it's too big for you. AFC Fylde's average home attendance this season has been 909. Let's not say anything more. Alright, let's get into the bottom 3. The worst defenders. The stadiums that look like they're hosting a League 1 or Championship night, when in reality there's about 600 people and a confused seagull in attendance. At number 3, we've got National League South outfit Bath City. The Twerton Park Stadium, as it's known, has a capacity of 8,840 and was actually previously used by Bristol Rovers between 1986 and 1996. During that time, the ground regularly saw crowds of 7,000 plus, which is no surprise because Bristol Rovers is a relatively big club. But since Bath City acquired the stadium, average attendances have been between 1,000 and 1,200. That's less than 13% of the stadium filled. For a small city team and a team that's never ever played in the Football League, I'm sorry, but the stadium is way too big for them. Now for the top two teams, should probably say worse, in terms of empty stadiums, we've got Halifax Town and Gateshead. Jesus, Gateshead. Two stadiums which weren't originally designed for football, which to be fair to those two clubs is a massive excuse for them. This stadiums just so happen to be in the area, so why not use them for football? Even if it somewhat tarnishes your club's reputation for having, you know, a decent fan base. And I'm not saying they don't, they just have a massive stadium which you can't expect any club in their leagues to fill. Gateshead's International Stadium wasn't built for them, it was built for athletics. The ground opened in 1955 as a multi-purpose athletics and community sports venue, not a football stadium. It was later redeveloped in the 1970s and 80s to meet international athletic standards, hence the running track, the huge stands and the wide open layout. Fun fact, it's hosted major athletics events including the European Team Championships and the British Grand Prix. Equally, Halifax Town Stadium, the Shea, wasn't originally designed just for football, it was meant to be a multi-purpose sports venue. Back in the 1920s and 30s, yes, the stadium is that old, Halifax local council brought the land with the idea of creating a large community stadium for the town. It opened in 1921, but for decades it hosted a mix of sports including speedway, stock car racing and the rugby league. The stadium is shared with Halifax RLFC, the town's professional rugby league team, and it's safe to say rugby has traditionally been the bigger draw in Halifax. Obviously we can't forget the fact FC Halifax Town are a Phoenix club. They were originally Halifax Town AFC, had many seasons in the Football League, they played at the same stadium and there's no doubt their attendances would have been a lot higher. With all that being said though, Gateshead have a stadium capacity of 11,800, but they've only averaged 984 home fans this season. That's 8.3% of their stadium filled. Mental. But in second place, not too far behind, we've got Halifax with a stadium capacity of 14,061 and an average home attendance of 1,629 this season, which is not as bad as Gateshead, but still only 11.6% of their ground filled on average. But anyway, yeah boys, I'm going to wrap up the video there. I do hope you enjoyed. Please comment down below what sort of videos you want to see next. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. But yeah, see you in the next one.